Ladies and gentlemen, we are we are here with the week 3 recap. We did every game today except for one. So yeah, time to get on into it. First game of the week was Tabs vs Tanner. Now, we all know how game 3 went. Very hacks orientated. A lot of Iron Head flinches, a lot of crits. Tabs just didn't get to play that game. Tanner says there was some hacks in Tabs' favorite game 1. I wouldn't really say there was that much that was even remotely close to what Tanner got. So I don't really think that's a fair excuse or like a fair trade-off. Because even game 2, game 2 there wasn't a lot, but game 3 was a really bad one. But regardless of game 3, Tab should have never led Flutter main. That was just troll. Especially after game 2, he saw Treads was assault vest. That was just such a dumb play. Never lead a Paradox on a booster energy. That's just how you. That's how you insta lose a game. That's how you do that. But yeah. Besides game 3, it was a fine set. Dracovish running house as usual. What was it? The Iron Defense Slow King was a good bring, just to try to deal with it. Most of the time, he couldn't even get the Iron Defenses up in time, because Tanner was never switching Slow King in as Dracovish was coming in. He was kind of bringing out after. So, but the red card on Overcoat was good. Trying to contest the weather with the snow. First time we're seeing some Titan Slow King since fucking week 5 of last season, so nice to see the boy back. He's finally in a tier that isn't tier 1. And Titan, it didn't do a lot, but it did its thing, man. It did its thing. But yeah. Dracovish kinda ran house, but Tanner managed to pull it out in the end. And game 3 was a game we don't talk about. Now, this was a last week game that got played today, or the other day. JC versus Noah. This was a divisional game from week 2. As you can see, Crocodile put the fucking team in the backpack, bro. Oh my god. I cannot believe Crook went that crazy. I mean, you'd think Ting Lu could eat hits, but Scarf Moxie turns out to be pretty good. So, yeah. It was a really competitive set. JC didn't bring Water Absorb on Mantine, so the Whirlpool Empoleon became a pretty massive threat. But, yeah. Other than that, there's really not much to say about this game. Noah just kind of got dicked by Crocodile. So, take that how you want, but kind of what happened. I think Farragraph is proving to be probably one of the better Terra captains in the league. Week 1 it popped off, week 2 it popped off. He plays Chris week 3. We'll have to see how it performs then, but as of the early 2 week, Farragraph's looking real good. Annihilate, Scarf Annihilate is a good bring. Hit a lucky crit on the Pidgeot. I'm pretty sure to one-shot it, but it's a good set in general. Obviously, JC fucked up the Water Absorb. Couple lucky crits with the Stone Edges on Pidgeot, but other than that, just a good set in general between two pretty solidly matched division rivals. Next up, we have JC again, and he brought this literally the same 6 as next match against B. This is week 3 game. India, game 1. I don't think I've ever seen JC get digged down that hard. I mean, he said it was a scouting game, and I get it, bro, but getting 6-0'd like that, god damn. Yeah, this is just another Urshifu beatdown. Really not a whole lot to say here. Urshifu is 99.9% repeating forever % chance of getting rebanned. Yeah, not much to say. I already told JC this, but I guess I'll say it now because it's the video. I was Scarf Valiant. He was booster special attack. I think that's Troll. I was Scarf, and I was always cloning Zoroark as the Valiant because if your Valiant's in, he wants to go Poison Jab, but Zoroark can eat it because he resists. And if he thinks Zoroark, he can Wicked Blow, but then you have Croak that resists, and you have Iron Valiant that's supposedly in, but it quad resists, it can eat it and just one-shot you back. So, not the best game. I think the Zoroark cloning, JC's still trying to figure it out. But for B, very good game. Had a tough loss against Chris last week, but brought it back. And yeah, big win for him. Big win. My game is Nick. Game 1, not much to say, but game 2, very, very competitive. A lot closer than I think anyone was expecting it to be. I should have got rocks up with Gomora, but I was just getting greedy and trying to toxic the Goodra too much. And yeah, me not getting rocks up almost meant I lost with Scorch. AB Scorch was putting in a ton of work. I think it was a massive threat for sure. Yeah, other than the Scorch, I got his whole team right. I thought he was going to bring the Alakazam, but he brought the Scorch, which honestly, this team he brought was very good. The Scarf Goodra was good, but he used it at the wrong time, which meant I knew that it was Scarf. And it allowed me to not... He brought it in when I had Gomora out, which meant I knew it, so when Gardevoir was around, not to bring it out when Goodra was around. And yeah. But other than that, I think Nick played pretty well. I'd like to see how he progresses. I think if he can make game 1s a little bit more competitive, he can definitely pull out some wins. But, because again, he almost beat me. We almost went through game 3. I don't go to game 3 as often. I don't lose that often. So, that's a lot to say. So for Nick, even though you didn't win, a lot better than what we did last time at the end of Season 3. This is good momentum to platform himself to the further in the season. For me, nice 3-0. Got a hard game against JC next week, but we'll get into that in the prediction video. Next up was Croc versus Cell, and I'll give Croc a little bit of a break because it's a new team. He basically redone his whole roster. Like, half his team is different. However, bringing 2 Mons quad week to Earthquake when the guy's Mega Garchomp, not the smartest bring. And he was playing very just loose with Zard Y. And Sal had the knowledge, like, he had the awareness to not Mega Garchomp until Zard was dead, which was very smart on his end. And the sun was barely up, but Walking Wake was still putting in the absolute work. I mean, 9-2 when the rest of the team is 0-2 is ridiculous. Yeah. There's really not much to say, because if sun was up, Croc wins. Issue being, he could never really find a way to get it up and maintain it. So yeah, that's a little unfortunate, but... The thing about Croc this season is he might be 0-3, but all of his games have been super close. Like, he's not losing hard. So even though he's losing a lot, his differential isn't bad, which means when he does start finally winning these games, he's not going to be that far behind. Obviously, in the win department, he's behind, but come playoff time in like 10 weeks from now, like 8-10 weeks from now, he's going to be in the race. He's going to be fine. Just now that he's a new team, he's got to start rebuilding a little bit, but he's rebuilding early enough to where he can definitely get some momentum going, so I'm excited to see where he cooks. He plays Tanner week 4, so we'll get into that a little bit later, but Biff versus Chase. Chase was playing crazy this game. I still don't know how he lost game 2. It felt weird, but Chase all set long was just playing super dominant. I thought he threw the set, when he let the Mega Glade agility at the end of game 3, but Enamorus ate the Stone Edge and was able to clean it up. Yeah, the Mega T-Tar just pursuit trapping the entire team was just insane. Yeah, Mega T-Tar is just a fucking demon. Biff, every time Gengar's in, you know T-Tar's coming out. Like, you have to use Gengar as bait to get Rhydon or Gallade in. You weren't really doing that. I think if you use Gengar for more as bait until T-Tar died, you would have been fine. Because, like, he's never switching Dracozolt in on a close combat. He's always going to go, like, either Manaphy or Haunter, which, obviously, it's a prediction game, but you can't have Gengar in because you know T-Tar's coming in, you're just dead to Pursuit, so. Also, Scarf Trick Room. That might have had to stay in the kitchen. But for Chase, great showing. Had a rough game against MNES last week in a divisional game. Finally found your footing again. Sitting at a nice 2-1, I believe. I forget who you played week 1, but I think you won. So yeah, you're sitting at a nice 2-1. Had a divisional game coming up against, I don't even know who you play, but you have a divisional game coming up this week. It's time to get that divisional win under your belt. Keep this momentum going a bit. Keep it going. Next up, we have MNES versus Josh. A game that was so boring, I quite literally fell asleep in the middle of it. Game 1, I'm not even going to talk about. Game 2, MNES killed Rotom Heat turn 1 with Terravolt Earth Power. He forgot about Terra Fairy Dragapult game 1. He forgot about his Terravolt, which blows my mind that he forgot about those things, but regardless. He started the game off super strong. And then he, like, what do you do? I think he let Metagross eat an Overheat for no reason or something, and then he let Scolipede eat a Future Sight and just insta-die, which, insane to me, but. For Josh, big game. Last season, MNES kind of dicked you down really hard. This season, you gave him the dicking. For MNES, you know, just don't forget the easy stuff. It's usually the small, easy things that you should remember that builds up. Especially when you have a mon like Kieran Black that has a super unique ability in Terravolt. Always got to be mindful of that. Game 2, you know Slowking's going to come in on you. He's Assault Vest for a reason. You knocked it off both games, which is really good. You have to click Earth Power one of those times. You just have to. Like, even if he doesn't go it, the fear of Earth Power, like, you weren't making that play, and that just allowed him to bring in Slowking just never die. Like, you had to make that play one of these times, but you didn't. It paid you. But I think MNES, you know, he's still trying to figure out his team. He's finding success with things like Volcanion and Kyurem. Other things on his team he's kind of struggling with. Usually the 3 main things on his team that I think he's been having success on is Manectric, Kyurem, and Volcanion. Try building around that and figuring out like what your team's lacking and what you don't want. Move on from there, but I don't think it's rebuild time for MNES yet. I think he definitely needs to let this team cook a little bit more. So I really do think his team is good. It's really bulky and hits super hard. He just needs to find a way to get it to work. And I think he's finding the ways to make it work. He's just not playing super well in his game. So we'll see. But I think MNES can definitely get the ball rolling. Just a very rough start to the season. And this is the last game of the week. Probably game of the season. It's up there for sure already. Obviously, as we get closer to playoffs, those games will definitely become the precedent and more important when it comes to voting for game of the season. But I don't know why I said precedent. That was not the right word. Whatever. But it's 5 in the morning. I don't give a fuck. But super close game. Um, Game 3, there was only like 3 hacks turns, but they're super important. Preston missed a focus blast on Cyclozar. Wu missed a ruination on Typhlosion. And then Wu won the game by crit thunderbolting Typhlosion, which that was the craziest thing ever. The whole call was just popping the fuck off. And yeah, I mean, we all know Preston should have won, but a win's a win. Wu will take it. Preston is still winless, but again, the teams that are winless, Nick's a little bit of a different story, but Preston and Croc, I don't even think they're playing bad. It's just Preston's team is just not the greatest in my opinion. I've voiced that a couple times already, but Croc and Preston, they are playing bad. It's just these 1 or 2 turns or like thing in prep or just something that just slips by, and it's painful because again, Preston had this game won, just 1 crit thunderbolt from Jolteon and it sealed the deal. But yeah, it's rough for Preston. Should have won. You know you should have won. I don't think you should be that mad about it. It was a really close game that you should have won. It literally just came down to a crit. For Wu, you've been to 3 game 3s back to back to back this season. Week 1. Let me see the schedule. Who the fuck did Wu play week 1? Played Tabs and you lost, but that was close. Played Nick, that was super close and you won in this. For Wu, your games are getting very close. I mean, Wu's games are always pretty competitive, but close for comfort for sure. But he's popping off with his Jolteon, and the Beedrill Wo-Chen is a great addition. And while he didn't use Shedtail that much this game, just the fear of it is very important. And I think Wu, you know, you skidded by just by the fucking skin of your teeth, but I think, you know, try to get this momentum going, keep it going, and don't let the thought of you losing this game get to you, because a win's a win, and you take all the wins you can fucking get in this league. But that's the recap for week 3. I'm gonna make the prediction video for week 4 now, so I'll see y'all in a minute or 2.